Assalamu alaikum and hello dear viewers. In last video we discussed the internal determinants of foreign policy. In this video we'll talk about the external determinants of foreign policy. I mean all those factors which are responsible to shape foreign policy and give a proper direction for the action of a state, that is called external determinants, which is outside of the boundaries of a state. So in this direction, first we have the structure of international system. So it depends that what kind of structure we have, whether that is multipolar system, which have more than two superpowers. Uh, the case was before the end of the Second World War, where the US, Soviet Union, China, Japan, Austro-Hungarian Empire, uh, Germany, Italy, they were the superpowers. And another, whether the international structure that is bipolar, if there are two superpowers in the world, the Cold War period from 1945 till 1991, that is called the Cold War era, where the world was divided into two blocks. One was led by the US, another was led by the Soviet Union or USSR, Union of the Soviet Socialist Republics. So there was bipolarity. Now, since the 1991, since the disintegration and collapse of the socialist regimes in the Soviet Union, now the world is unipolar, that the United States of America is the sole superpower. So, and all these eras and structures of the world international politics, states will behave differently. And multipolar world, it may behave differently from that of the bipolar system, and it will behave in a different direction wherever the world system is unipolar. Look to the Pakistan's policy. Pakistan was very much dependent on the US in most of the cases in the Cold War era, but in the post-Cold War era it was not as much. Yes, since 9/11 it is dependent, especially in the war on terror, but it changes and it may change in future as well. Look to the Pakistan and Russian relationship. In Cold War, Soviet Union, the predecessor of Russian Federation, was very much closer to India, but now it is not as much as was in Cold War era. Now Pakistan and Russian Federation, they are going closer and closer to one another because of this unipolar system. And look to the China's example, till the death of Mao, till 1976, when China did not open itself for the world, there was antagonism and rivalry between the People's Republic of China, the United States, and its European and Asian allies. But now there is very much cooperation between the People's Republic of China and the United States of America, because now the world is not bipolar anymore. It is unipolarity in international politics. So there are hundreds of examples which we may cite while talking about the structure of international system, that how it looks like, what is the narrative. So it shapes, it affects our state's foreign policy. Second example we have, that is the international organization. So it also plays important role according to liberalism. uh, International organizations, whether those are intergovernmental organizations or non-governmental organizations, they are significant while having its impact on a state's foreign policy. So international organizations, they play their role. In some cases they are very strong, in some cases not very strong. So it depends on the situation. It varies from case to case. It depends on the situation of the world. On many occasions, United States imposed sanctions on some states because of their behavior, because of even the interest of the world powers. Look, there are economic sanctions on Iran. There were economic sanctions imposed on Pakistan when Pakistan started its nuclear program. Already the Symington-Brown Amendment, which United States was giving assistance to Pakistan, that was removed. Also, the US asked France to just to withdraw its assistance from Pakistan. So France also did look to the Pressler Amendment, have the United States imposed in 1989. So look to the United Nations when it called for the boycott of the Moscow Olympics in 1980, because at that time Soviet Union was involved in a war in Afghanistan. So that was the world call by the United Nations. On other occasions, uh, the Commonwealth Organization also imposed sanctions on Pakistan when especially General Musharraf took power. So, in such kind of situations when there is a dictatorship, when there is war, when there is severe human rights violations, so international organizations, they come forward and they impose sanctions on countries, and also assistance. So many international organizations, they give assistance, humanitarian assistance, economic, financial assistance to many countries. Look to the role of the IMF and World Bank, International Monetary Fund and World Bank. They give loans, they give assistance, they give grants to many countries, and of course it shapes the policies of a country, whether those are internal or external. I mean, it also affects foreign policies of countries. Because these are the monetary agencies across the globe, they have a potential role. So that's why direct impact they have on a country's foreign policy. Another, that is the world public opinion. So it also matters, but it depends, doesn't necessarily that it works 100% for all the times. It may vary from case to case. It depends on the situation of the world. So the world public opinion is also important, because sometimes it diverts the attention of the leaders. Sometimes it pressurizes and it forces the decision makers in a country to have such and such foreign policy. It means that it builds the narrative. International media is also important. To look to the various famous media outlets internationally. They form and they inform. They form narratives, they inform the audience, they inform the public, and then that public also exerts pressure on their own governments and also international movements. They start from country to country, and they have network, they have linkage with one another. So in many cases, they just exerts pressure on the governments for a certain action that it should be taken. Look to the neighbors of a state. It also pressurize a state for a positive or negative change in their foreign policies. What kind of neighbors you have, so it will persist over there, because a state can changes its course of action, but it can't change its neighbors. So neighbors are permanent. Geography is almost permanent. So that's why it is also very much important that a states should follow and should formulate its foreign policy while keeping in mind the interest and also its linkages, its relationship with its neighbors. So these are the external determinants of foreign policy, which shape foreign policy of a country and give a proper and certain direction to foreign policy of a country. Take care, viewers. Thank you. Allah Hafiz and goodbye.